IML students. Today, you are going to learn about what are pips and how do you calculate them. Before we get started, here's a little bit about myself. My name is Adeze Duncan, representing iMarkets Live. Some of you may know me from Forex 101 on IML TV. Also, I was an educator for 10 years, and now I'm here educating you on the facts and methods of Forex. In order to get started on this journey, you need to remember one thing and one thing only. I am a student, always. This is very important for you to remember and to remind yourself of often. You will hear me use this phrase frequently as a reminder that you are a student that is learning a skill that will pay you for the rest of your life. Make sure that you take your time and learn what you need to learn. Pace yourself. Do not compare yourself to anyone else's progress. Always keep a winning mind frame and you will do very well in this industry. Upon finishing this video, you should have a very good understanding of the following questions. Read through them quietly to yourself. As you are taking notes, make sure to pause this video in order to answer these questions. Here is some important vocabulary that you may want to pause the video in order to write down. When you are finished, go ahead and resume. So what is a pip? A pip is nothing more than a unit of measurement that expresses the change in the value of the market. In other words, in the same way that you express time in minutes or in days or in hours, we're expressing the change in the market in pips. If it goes up, it went up a certain amount of pips. If it goes down, it goes down a certain number of pips. It is nothing more than the fourth decimal number after the comma. You see in this picture here, the 13021. And by the way, that's not supposed to be a comma. It's actually a period. So that's really 1.3021. The 1 is the pip position. Now you know what a pip is. How do you actually calculate them? Remember, the pip is the fourth digit. So here's an example. Here's a scenario. You enter NZD/USD at 4.56567 and exit at 4.56772. How many pips did you gain or lose? And first of all, pay attention. Notice which numbers are the pips position. Okay, make sure you pay attention to that, because what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to subtract these numbers, but you have to know which one is the pip, which one is the one that has your focus. Now you know what a pip is. How do you actually calculate them? Remember, the pip is the fourth digit. So here's an example. Here's a scenario. You enter NZD/USD at 4.56567 and exit at 4.56772. How many pips did you gain or lose? And first of all, pay attention. Notice which numbers are the pips position. Okay, make sure you pay attention to that, because what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to subtract these numbers, but you have to know which one is the pip, which one is the one that has your focus. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take the 4.56772 and subtract it from 4.56567, and you're going to get, it's going to equal 0.00205. Now let me just stop and pause you. You know what? Some people can get all up in, a frenzy about which one do you take first to subtract. If you want, go with the bigger number. If you end up with a negative number, who cares? Ignore the negative. So really, you could just punch these in any direction. The most important part is that you get that answer equals 0.00205. Now, one way that you can find out how many pips was in this situation is you take them, subtract them, and then you can divide by 0.0001. Is going to equal 20.5 pips. Why did you want to divide by 0.0001? Because remember, the pip is the fourth decimal place after, or the fourth digit after the decimal place. So if you divide by that decimal, you're going to get 20.5. Now, if dividing numbers gives you the EBGBs, there's a whole nother way that you can solve this. There's an alternative way. And this is the way that I personally like to use, because I don't like dividing numbers either. I'm not a dividing type of person. If you move the decimal over 4 places to the right, remember, the reason why we're moving it 4 places to the right is because the pip is the fourth digit to the right of the decimal. So if you take that point where it says equals 0.00205 and you slide that thing over 4 places, you will get the same answer. So here's what it looks like in, written out for you, for those of you who are visual people. See how I took the decimal and I slid it? 1, 2, 3, 4 equals 20.5 pips. Super easy, super easy. We're going to do another example, don't worry. Before I go ahead and do another example, I did have to mention the pipette. Some brokers offer prices that are up to 5 decimal figures after the comma, and it's much more accurate, so they say. Really, what I say is it really just gets in your way, makes you mad, and you thought that you were calculating pips, but you really got confused with the 5th digit. So know that number is the pipette. So in this picture, you see 1.3020. That 1 is the pipette. Let me tell you now, ignore that number. When you're calculating, don't even add it to your calculator. Or if you do, act like it's that invisible friend that you had. Or act like, I don't know how many of you guys had siblings. I had siblings. What I would do is I would pretend they were invisible. It used to make them really mad. I know I'm not the only one who did that. But that's what you do with the pipette. Act like it doesn't exist. The one that you care about is the 4th decimal place. So now here's our second example. You enter New Zealand dollar at 1.098992 and exit at 1.16971. How many pips? So right now, you should have your calculator out. You can pause the video. You should be subtracting these numbers to find out what that decimal answer is. So after taking it, you see that is 1.109892, I think I said that right, minus 1.16971 is going to equal 0.07081. Notice I have this color coded. The 8 is blue because that's the pip. The 1 is red because that's the pipette. And what do we do with the pipette? Ignore them. Now remember, one way you can solve this, if you like to divide numbers, you just take 0.001 and you divide that decimal. So if you have 0.07081 in your calculator, you can hit the divide button and divide by 0.0001. You should get equals 7081. Remember, it's because it is the 4th digit. I'm going to sound like a broken record. 4th digit after the decimal. That's why you divide by 0.0001. And now for my favorite type of way of solving a problem. Remember, once you've got it solved, equals 0.0781, just move the decimal over 4 places to the right. Simple. Here's an example. Take 0.07081, slide the decimal over, 1, 2, 3, 4, and there you go. Honestly, the reason why I like this is I can just look right at my phone and see that decimal and mentally see myself sliding the decimal over. But for those of you who like to use your calculators and divide, that's another option. So I just showed you 2 different ways that you can calculate pips. Now let's actually put it in action, because most of us aren't going to be looking at numbers like this. We're going to be looking at the chart. Why am I having you calculate pips like this? Because when you start analyzing charts, you're going to want to start calculating where's your take profit going to be? Where's your stop loss going to be? Now, of course, there are fancy tools like on MetaTrader 4 or TradingView, but to get you started, this is how it works. So let's say you enter, and I already have the entry price at 1.09207, and you exit at where the blue is at 1.08962. What do? You get it. You are going to subtract those numbers. It's going to equal 0.00245. You can slide the decimal over 4 places to the right, and then you end up with 24.5 pips. Hopefully, this is getting more simple. If not, please replay this video. There are some exceptions to the rules, such as yen pairs and gold pairs. In yen and gold pairs, the second decimal figures after the comma is the pip. So, for instance, look down here. It says, if USD JPY rose from 103.25 to 103.26, that deviation was 1 pip. Notice there's not 4 decimal places. There's not 4 digits after the decimal. This only applies to yen and gold pairs. Here's a really awesome picture that you can snapshot for your notes. Take a screenshot of it, take a picture of it, write it down until you get it. Notice how on one side you see 1.25418 and it shows you the pipette. And then on the right, remember what I told you to do with those pipettes? We ignore them. So you don't see an 8. You don't see a 3. Okay? So the top one is for pretty much every other pair. The bottom number, the 1.273, represents yin and gold pairs. Now the other way of doing it, you already know, is slide the decimal place 2 spaces to the right. Remember, 2 places because the pip is the second digit to the right of the decimal in yin and gold pairs. So here's a screenshot of a yin pair. Notice right here where it says where you entered. You entered at 111.443 and exited at 111.909. Okay? Now, what do? You subtract them, and you should get 0.446. If you slide the decimal 2 places to the right, you should get 44.6 pips. Hopefully this is making sense. Hopefully it's starting to make sense to you. All right, now I want you to try. Practice. How many pips did you get? If you entered, notice at the bottom, your entry is at the bottom, at 144.549 and you exit at 136.06. How much did you gain? And here's another question. Was this a buy or a sell? Well, why would you get in for this? Would you get in for a buy or would you be getting in for a sell? So 2 questions. How many pips and would you be getting in for a buy or sell? Let's practice one more time. Let's say you got in at 1.00924 and you exited at 0.99024. All right, make sure you type this into your calculator. And was this a good buy order or a good sell order? All right, so hopefully you've done the math. If you did the math, you should have got something like this, 8.489 in your calculator. So now if you slide the decimal over 2 places, that's 848.9 pips. Woo-wee! And by the way, this would have been a very good buy order. You wouldn't have gotten something like this unless you were doing like a long-term order. By now, you should have a good understanding of the following questions. Read them quietly to yourself, and when you are finished, go on to the next video in this series. Thank you so much. My name is Adeze Duncan, and remember, I am a student always.